Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here and welcome to my second week of BooktubeSFF Babbles, and this is a series that we are running during the length of the BooktubeSFF Awards 2016, which is discussion videos discussing various topics in science fiction and fantasy. We want you to take part as well. Check out the Goodreads group where there's links where you can comment and chat about the different threads and discussions that are going on. Feel free to make videos as well. All the topics are there for each week, and I will be uploading each week my thoughts on each of these topics. This week's topic is underrated fantasy books. We want you to talk about a handful of fantasy books that you feel are underrated. Now, I don't know if you know, but I'm relatively new to science fiction and fantasy. It's not a genre that I have been reading my whole life. It's something that I have been reading because of BookTube, which is really exciting for me when I discovered that I really loved it. So I don't really have that many underrated reads because if you're like me, when you start out into a new genre, you tend to pick books that are highly recommended either by friends or other people on BookTube, and so that tends to be the type of book that I've been reading. However, I thought my spin on this, because you can adapt this series to how you want, is I went to my shelf, and as you know, I'm a compulsive book buyer. I have a lot of books on my unread shelf and sort of TBR shelves, and I went through my science fiction and fantasy books and I pulled out about 7 books, I think, that are books that I'm excited to read, that I have on my shelf to read, that I haven't heard about much on BookTube. So what I am hoping is that in the comments you'll be able to tell me if you've read any of these, if you think that they are underrated, and just to sort of show you some of the books that are on my shelves that I don't hear about on BookTube, and hopefully they will inspire me to read them, and hopefully some of these will be 5-star reads. So let's get started. The first one I haven't heard much about, and that is The City of Silk and Steel by Mike Carey, Linda Carey and Louise Carey. So I obviously haven't read any of these books, so I can't give you very detailed synopses, but what I wanted to do for each of these is to read the first paragraph and see what we think and if it piques our interests. So let's get started. Prologue. Once there was a city of women. Little remains of it now but its name. The few accounts that survive are incomplete and contradictory. Most suggest that it was inaccessible in a far desert region beyond the reach of common travellers. But all the stories begin with once. The city's remoteness was perhaps a matter of time rather than distance. Be that as it may, in the stories that have come down to us, few narrators have anything to say of the city's whereabouts. Fewer still claim to have seen it in person. This is the tale of one man who made that claim. Well, so far it sounds interesting. So it looks from the cover to me that it's sort of an Arabian Nights type story, and the back has various different blurbs. It says, a masterful, engaging and utterly fascinating story by 3 wonderful writers. One can only hope they will collaborate again, as this project has proven how well they work together. The reader is really the winner here. So I'm looking forward to trying this one. Next one I picked up off my shelves is Among Thieves, A Tale of the Kin by Douglas Hewlick. I think this came in one of my Willoughby Book Club subscriptions. So I'm just going to read the first paragraph and let's see what we think. Athel the Grinner wasn't grinning. In fact, he didn't look that good at all. A long night of torture will do that to a person. Should we read a little bit more? I knelt beside him. He was naked, his arms lashed across the top of a barrel. The rest of him collapsed behind. I avoided looking at the bloody mess that had once been his hands and feet. Athel, I said. Nothing. I slapped the smuggler slightly on the sweaty cheek. Hey, Athel. His eyelids fluttered once. I wove my fingers into his hair, took hold and raised his head so he could see me. If any of the sympathy or pity I felt showed on my face, so be it. I don't have to like what I do sometimes. I said his name again. Interesting. It's certainly written in an easy to read way, so I'm excited to read this one. And on the back it has a blurb from Brent Weeks, which says, Among Thieves is an unalloyed pleasure, a fast-moving, funny, twisting tale in an evocative setting with great characters. The kind of story that reminds you why you love to read. This book may just give you that feeling you had the first time you read Rothus or Abercrombie. Oh, hell yeah. There's a new talent in the game. Read this book. No, really, read this book. So that is high praise indeed. I definitely can't wait to try this one now. The next up is The Spirit Thief by Rachel Aaron. I can't wait to try this one. It's the start of a series, so let's see what the first paragraph has to say. In the prison under the castle Alaz, in the dark, mouldy cells where the greatest criminals in Melanor spent the remainder of their lives counting rocks to stave off madness, Ellie Mompress was trying to wake up a door. Sounds like an interesting start to a story. Next up is Heartwood by Freya Robertson. I think I was sent this by my Willoughby Book Club as well, possibly. So let's see what this one has to hold. Oh, it's got a map, which is always a good sign. The belt hung from a hook in the doorway of a tent, weighed down by a bulging leather pouch. Gold coins shone at the top where the tie had loosened, an open invitation to the light-fingered. The boy's gaze alighted on it like a bird. He paused amidst the busy traffic on the road into Heartwood, stepping out of the way of the carts and huge battle steeds that threatened to trample him. He glanced around to make sure no one was looking and sidled over. A blue Wolfhanger banner flew from the top of the tent and he pulled a face at it as he reached out to take the pouch. Sounds like an interesting read too. Next up is Traitors Blade by Sebastian de Castell. I've never heard about this one, so let's see. This one is blurbed, de Castell combines the best of Joe Abercrombie and Alexandre Dumas. He can break your heart and spike your adrenaline with the same sentence. I love Alexandre Dumas and I haven't read Abercrombie, but I'm thinking I may like him now. Let's see. Oh, a map, as we say, a good sign. And let's read the first paragraph. Lord Tremondi. Pretend just for a moment that you have tamed your most deep-seated desire. Not the simple, sensible one you tell your friends about, but the dream that's so close to your heart that even as a child you hesitated to speak it out loud. Imagine, for example, that you had always yearned to be a greatcoat, one of the legendary sword-wielding magistrates who travelled from the lowliest village to the biggest city, ensuring that any man or woman, high or low, had recourse to the king's laws. A protector to many, maybe even a hero to some. You feel the thick leather coat of the office around your shoulders, the deceptively light weight of its internal bone plates that shield you like armour, and the dozens of hidden pockets holding your tools and tricks and esoteric pills and potions. You grip the sword at your side, knowing that as a greatcoat you have been taught to fight when needed, given the training to take on any man in single combat. Sounds like the good start to a story. And then finally is an author I've heard a lot about, Mercedes Lackey, but not seen many of her books talked about on BookTube. And this is a Valdemar novel, and this one's called Foundation, and it's the Collegium Chronicles Book 1. This is blurbed on the back saying, Lackey makes a real page-turner out of Mags and the Collegia's development. This book's outstanding characters, especially Mags, will greatly please Valdemar fans. So here's the first paragraph. Mags did not shiver in the cold. His body was used to it by now. Besides, it was warmer down here in the mine than it was up there at the sluices, and almost warmer than it was in the DOS room, at least until everyone got packed in and the heat of their bodies combined enough so they could sleep. He knelt in the shaft in the approved manner, rock just a few fingers' length from his nose. His knees fitted into smooth hollows that he himself had painstakingly cut out. His lamp, strapped to his forehead, cast a dim light on the rock face in front of him. That was the only part of him that was warm, his forehead behind the reflector of the lamp oil. So, yeah, those are a selection of books from my shelves, some things people have said about them, and the first paragraphs. There's a couple in there now that I want to read as soon as possible. Let me know if you've read any of these, which ones you think are hidden gems, and let's talk in the comments. Bye for now, BookTube.